Can you please introduce yourself?
Hey, my name's Giles Robson, all the way over from London, England, and I'm a blues harmonica player and singer.
Alright, so are you excited to play here tonight?
We're really excited. We're always excited to come over and play in Holland because there's such a cool blues scene over here, and the people really feel it and take it to heart, you know. So it's great for us to come over.
Alright, so where have you played before in Holland?
Well, we had a really successful year. We did the two big blues festivals, Ribson Blues and Moulin Blues. We played the Paradiso, small room in the Paradiso, twice because someone pulled out, so we just slotted in there.
Nice.
And yeah, all over the place. Last night we were in Helmond, the night before Hengelo, and tomorrow we're in Utrecht.
Okay, that was a big festival in Helmond as well, right?
Yeah, that's going on next week. We were like the warm-up for it.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a great little bar, and we had a lot of fun.
Alright, so it wasn't too far to travel here?
No, we had a nice... It's always good as well, because everything's so close. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, we
everything
just...
in the Netherlands is close.
Yeah, it's very cool, very cool.
Alright, so you're perceived to be one of the world's leading blues harmonica players. How does it feel when harmonica players like Sugar Blue and Paul Jones describe you as being one of the greatest players alive?
Oh, it's amazing. You know, really, I have no idea. I fell in love with blues when I was 14 years old, and I've been addicted to it. You know, like with a real, you know, a corporate banker might get addicted to making money with his job. I got addicted to playing music and creating music on the harmonica. So it's really, you know, it's really special. I'm really grateful for that, you know, because I put a lot of time and effort and thought into it, because I just sort of fell in love with it, you know.
So how did it start? Because you said you were only 14 when you started playing.
Yeah, well, I was on an art trip. We were in Toledo in Spain, and there were two TV shows. Roseanne, which is this old TV show that was in the 90s about a blue collar family with John Goodman as well, and they had harmonica on the intro by a guy called John Duke Logan, who was a well-known session player and an artist in California, and also the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They had Will Smith played harmonica in one of the episodes very quickly, and it just sort of sparked my interest. I was already playing saxophone and listening to like Charlie Parker and jazz and stuff like that and improvising, but the harmonica had this real street sort of gritty, soulful thing going on that I found was even more soulful than the sax. So I got the harmonica in Toledo, went back home, and our local arts centre had an African-American blues duo with harmonica and guitar the very weekend I got back home. So we went to see that, and it was absolutely incredible, you know. It was a really amazing start to hear the real thing.
Yeah.
And I've been playing ever since.
That's amazing. Because you started when you were quite young. I imagine blues is something that's usually been listened to by a somewhat older generation. How do you keep it interesting for the younger generation?
Well, with what I'm doing, this is the harmonicas I play for, Hohner harmonicas, who I endorse. But the blues harmonica has always traditionally been played up to about sort of it's got 3 octaves. It's always been played up to whole number 6, so the first 2 octaves. But I've learned through people like Sugar Blue and through listening to other instruments like trumpet and piano and so on to extend it. So not only do you have you've also got the extended range of playing things like. So you play the whole range of the instrument, and you can see people, you know, you try and play the audience as well. You can see people sort of listening to the notes and following the notes, you know, as they, you know, so it's all that sort of thing.
How do you see that?
Well, you know, you're like looking out in the audience, and you can sort of see them go. You do like a run low, and they're sort of getting into it.
Yeah.
So it's great, you know. You just sort of try and extend it by listening to other instruments and try to create something original on it, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, just keep it imaginative and don't try and be too much of a pastiche. Don't try and copy someone and be exactly like someone.
Yeah.
Try and be like yourself.
Is there no one that you try to copy in any sort of way?
Well, I've learned all of the masters. I tried to learn all their solos note for note, so I knew exactly what they were doing. Little Walter, Sonny Boy Williamson, and some of the other more modern players like Sugar Blue, Billy Branch. But really, you want to try and get your own vocabulary going as well, so people become interested that you're doing something new.
How would you describe your own style?
Well, it's based in tradition, and it's emotional and it's soulful, but it's still technical. You know, I try to, I use the technique to sort of project the soul of the instrument into the music. but it's forward thinking as well.
Yeah.
And we're gonna push it in the next album that we're recording next year. We're really gonna push the writing of it. So we're gonna do big rock riffs with the harp and guitar, and really try and make the songs, really individual.
Yeah. Does that also reflect in your lyrics? Like, if you do a bit more rock, are the lyrics like heavier in some sort of way?
Well, for me, blues lyrics are incredible because someone wrote in Rolling Stone magazine that really blues lyrics are pop songs because they tell a story. Yeah. And the great Chicago pianist Otis Spann said, back in the day when they're creating these songs, they were writing them for the people in the bars and taverns of Chicago who couldn't read and write, and this was their sort of literature, so it's sort of telling a story and comforting people, when they've gone through bad times. And the great thing about blues is that it ages with you. You sort of get into it when you're young because of the music and what you hear in the music, but as you go through life and you go through tough times, and relationships and relationship breakups and the unreliability of life and work and all of that stuff, it's there for you because it's a healing music, so it's very reflective of life and experience. Yeah. So it sort of gets better as you get older, it becomes richer and deeper.
Yeah. So is that because I had a question here, what do you need blues for? What's the blues cure to say?
They call blues chicken soup for the soul,
Yeah.
And I think especially with the sort of blues that I'm going to be playing tonight, the traditional blues. Yeah. It's like Lightning Hopkins, the great blues guitarist and singer, said blues is like ointment for a bee sting. Yeah. And it's sort of the repetitive nature of it and the sort of the haunting nature of the music that's really soothing when you've got a worried mind. Because when you're sort of worried, you sort of think about things repeatedly, and it's that sort of repeated thing in the blues that soothes it. It's like stroking a dog or whatever. It's that the repeated.
Okay. So do you think blues in that sense is the best way to, the best chicken soup for the soul? Because I can also imagine metal is also very emotional, and maybe also some sort of chicken soup for the soul.
Yeah, well, I think it works. I think well, I think it works in a different way. I think it's more a sort of a rage thing with metal. It's like letting it all out.
Yeah.
And I think blues grew up amongst people that couldn't let it all out. They couldn't, shout out for their rights because they were, the African American people were segregated, and they were very, the stories that you hear from the Mississippi in the 20s, 30s and 40s are absolutely terrible. The way this group of people were treated. And so it's sort of it's a sort of a more, metal is sort of like an outpouring of not only through the music but going to a concert and moshing, but with blues it's more of a sort of it's sort of a more of a soothing thing that doesn't wear it on its sleeve. What it is with blues, it's not letting it out because these people couldn't just let it out, they had to live with it. So it's like it's sort of music of survival and living with it. Yeah. So you're never truly letting it out, you're just coping with your troubles as you have them, if you know what I mean.
Okay, yeah, I get it. But I mean, maybe this is kind of weird to say because maybe it's just a wrong assumption, but you're talking about people that really need the blues, like a suppressed society, basically. But I have the feeling that most people that listen to blues nowadays are more like a somewhat older, white generation that's mostly kind of privileged in this world.
Well, that's one of the big ironies of blues music, is it is now largely become a white music because African American audiences, when soul and funk came along in the 60s, a very positive music. I think they found that blues reminded them of a very negative time, and it's the music has never really again captured that African American audience. I mean, African American people listen to blues, but from what I can tell and from what people write about, not in any great numbers, not in the sort of the hundreds of thousands. So it's weird, and sometimes I think why did I choose this music? But I think its power is that it's travelled across the world, and people of every nationality now play blues. Yeah. Japanese people, Romanian people, Russians. I've been sort of all around the world, and everyone plays it and everyone loves it. Yeah. So it's testament to the the power of the music, I guess.
It's also probably the most pure music in the world, right? Because everything sort of came from the blues. I mean, doesn't the soul and the funk also come from the blues eventually?
Yeah, everything comes from it. I mean, it's it's a groove music, you know, and that's the sort of thing that sets apart. What we try to do is try and get those original grooves going, because otherwise it would be really boring. So we're a very groove-based band, and that went on to influence funk and soul and also rock. But the interesting thing about 70s sort of classic rock, which sort of came out of the British discovering the blues, is it suddenly became a lot more melodic and less rhythmical, which is an interesting sort of development, because you know, British music is more about melody and less about rhythm, and African music is more about rhythm and less about melody. So it's interesting how it's been taken and changed to suit, you know, people of other nationalities and, you know, with different cultural histories.
Yeah. All right. So what can we expect of you in the near future?
Well, we're signed with V2 Records, who are based in Holland, and they've just resurrected Munich Records, which is one of Holland's oldest record labels. And we're going to release our new album hopefully February, March next year.
Okay.
And just hopefully a lot more touring over here. You know, we love coming over here. It's a short journey away for us on the Channel Tunnel.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully more touring over here and hopefully branching out a bit more into Europe as well.
Any surprises on the new album that you can tell us about?
Not yet, but it's going to be slightly different to what we've done on this album. It's going to be sort of looking towards the future a bit more, but it's going to be very groove based and riff based.
Okay.
The three words that I've written down on my plan, because I like to plan out the album, are riffs, grooves, and dirt. So that's what it's going to sound like: riffs, grooves, and dirt.
So what do you mean with dirt?
Just to get that raw, you know, sort of sound, you know, that you get on all the, you know, a lot of the classic records. You know, just that sort of dirty guitar sound and harmonica sound. It's just putting it, so it doesn't sound too sterile. You know, it's just putting that bit of grit into the mix.
Yeah, no auto-tune on your album.
No auto-tune. I probably could do a little, but no auto-tune.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and I
Thank
hope
you
you
very
have a
much,
great time here tonight playing.
Thank you. We're looking forward to it.
We are too.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.